Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Inside the Mirror podcast. I'm your host, Kyle David. Today, I got special guests, and I know I say that all the time, but these people are all special, so bear with it. Today, we got entrepreneur, my guy, my friend, reoccurring guest, and as we were just talking, there are going to be certain people on this podcast that are going to keep showing up because they have a lot of value to offer you. So today, without further ado, my friend, my boy, entrepreneur extraordinaire, my guy, Rocky. Rocky, how are you, bro?
My brother, what's good? So glad to be back, man. I love being with you here.
Bro, I'm so happy you're back. And you and I have developed somewhat of a friendship off of this podcast. So it's cool to have some whatever the word is, some relationship, I guess, behind this, instead of just like cold call, So anyways, let's get into it, bro. Thanks for being here. Like, you're somebody that, like I was telling you, you're somebody that I think as I watch you, right, just the progression of your life, how you face the ups and downs of life, like you are somebody that I just think is learning a lot, has learned a lot, and has a lot of value to offer people. And that's the whole point of this podcast I just want to be helpful and bring on people that are helpful. So I think that if anybody listened to the first one, which me and my family have talked about you recently, they'd listened to the first episode and had questions and were like, this guy was really in these crazy camps, and Paris Hilton went to those camps. Like, what is going on? So I think it's cool. Just like, we'll dive deeper into like kind of who you are and like your psyche and like how you view life. And don't want to get too deep and expose anything you don't want to, but whatever you're comfortable talking about. Like, I know you went through quite a frustrating, and maybe that's even too light of a word, like a painful struggle recently, right? Like, life hit you in the face. But it was cool, like I told you, to watch how you handled that. So I don't want to go too far into it. I want you to be able to take the wheel. Can you kind of like just talk about like how life, when life hits you, like what you did, if you want to go deep into that, and kind of just like your tactics when life gives you the old right hook to the jaw, you know what I'm saying?
Like the best way to put it too is the right hook to the jaw. And man, like I know I can speak for many people when I say that we've all felt that right hook, pretty strongly. And yeah, man, as you said, a couple weeks ago, it hit me pretty hard. And yeah, I mean that's just one thing, all this that I went through, the boot camps and the prisons and stuff and all that stuff is external, right? These things that happen to us, And to be honest, and I think I was writing about this like earlier today or yesterday. The real prisons, the real jails, the real like limitations, all of those like right here and right here for me. Like just going through all that stuff is it's all on the outside. There's so much of the way like I dealt with it and the way I started viewing things. And as we, especially as entrepreneurs, as we grow, we develop these identities in these certain ways that we deal with these things. And for me, it was like hustle, 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 work, work, go, go, do, 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 do. And recently I kind of had a breakup, which was really tough, and um, it was just so crazy because like everything was seeming to roll so nicely, and then as soon as that happened, I realized like, wait a minute, Rocky, like, wow, once again you have externalized every single thing that means something to you, and none of it's really built in here. And if it was, when those things totally happened, that I would be like, oh, okay, deal with it in a much lighter sense of view. And I like you say like you watch the journey stuff, and I put it out there. But a lot of these things that happen, behind the scenes, like I wasn't proud of myself, even a couple weeks ago, the way I acted and the way I viewed it, and the way I handled it in a certain sense, especially in relation to that relationship. But yeah, man. So I had a choice, a couple weeks ago. What am I going to do? Like, I'm out of this relationship. I'm alone. I'm living in LA. The world is Mexico's open. Everywhere is open. I can go where I want to go. And part of me in the past would always like anytime a relationship breakup or anything bad would happen, I would literally go to like a party destination, while out, basically be out of my senses for a week. Drink, smoke, whatever. I mean, just to mainly to avoid it. Like mainly to not be waking up in the morning with tears in my eyes, and not to be honest, like even when I reached out to you, brother, and we spoke, to not do those things, because that's the I don't want to say the hard way, but it is like you were saying, like that's the diving in and dealing with it way versus, throwing up all these distractions and all these different little options you can do. So yeah, like I really I kind of showed my ass in a certain sense. During that time, I let my old ways of thinking and beliefs just kind of like cloud my brain. And for me, I'm the type of person that when I even in a relationship, in business, anything, when I see like one thing kind of go wrong, my like fight or flight kicks in, and I think that
Mm,
everything is going wrong. Like I just feel like,
mm,
oh my god, like the world is ending. Like I'm getting played, I'm getting used, I'm getting this and that, and it just compounds each other and compounds each other. And that all, like I said before, that all starts and ends in here. You know,
mhm,
um, None of that stuff was actually happening or is actually happening.
mhm,
They say like usually the stuff that you worry about doesn't really come to fruition. Most of the stuff that happens to you happens randomly, like on a Tuesday morning. Like when you're not even thinking about it. Um, so like, so yeah, man, I took a time for myself. I went to Hawaii, and I've been to Hawaii 4 or 5 times, so I didn't go with like the mindset of, oh, I have to experience this area, I have to do this tourist stuff. I sat around on the beach.
mm,
I meditated out on the beach in the morning. I walked around. I had a buddy living there. I spent time with his kids and his family, and I really just kind of like dove into myself. Honestly, like that trip was tough because one, it was a little bit more on the expensive side. So like I'm like, oh, part of me is like I should be partying and enjoying this like crazy. I should be talking to people and this and that and girls and parties and drinks, and it just didn't feel right. Like relationships are crazy, man. And I think I made this post like earlier too, like about finding your soul before you find your soulmate. You know what I mean?
mhm,
And I've been in that process since when we last talked back in
mhm,
Venice Beach. I think it was about a year ago, right? Almost,
mhm. Yeah.
definitely a year ago. And that was when this relationship I'm speaking of first started. And I was kind of like really in like a self-searching phase then, and hopped into something that felt right because that's what I've been doing is just kind of what feels right in front of me.
Mm,
Fast forward to now a year later, I realized that like I still had a lot of work to do there. And she actually pointed out to me this is a beautiful post about how, if you're gonna wait around until you're totally healed or you're totally ready for love and a relationship, you're just gonna be waiting
yeah.
for a long time.
Or
Because like
forever.
or forever, because it's just it doesn't end. And
Right.
that's when you say we can do this podcast forever. Like I hate to say like, oh yeah, I'm probably gonna have something else that's gonna hit me pretty hard in a couple weeks and have to
Mhm.
deal with it again. But that's life. It's
Yeah.
all about how we deal with it.
Mhm,
So yeah, like to tell you this story, when I came back from Hawaii, I was in a better like I shifted my body, right? I
mhm,
made my body move. I made my body go see something different. My mind started kind of clicking in a different way. And eventually, I'm not sure the timeline, but eventually, there something that came in front of me, which was an event by the Liberate Experience in LA in the Rafi Lounge, and it was just a Malibu sunset yoga rooftop type of thing, an ecstatic dance type of thing.
mhm,
Um, and my ex girlfriend at that time had told me we should go to it, and I was kind of like brushing it off, like whatever. And for some reason, it just felt right to go to it,
hmm,
so I did. And every once in a while, we have these amazing shifts and these like aha light bulb click, everything makes sense moments, and that was one of them for me.
hmm,
A lot of like my old ways of thinking from my family, from being a man raised in the South with certain mindsets and programming, was tying a lot of like my belief system to very certain strong ideals that I wouldn't let go of. And
hmm,
one of those in particular, which caused issues in my relationships, all of them probably, was tied around like women and dance and sexuality and
hmm,
alcohol and how all those
hmm,
things had to be one and the same. And it sounds like such a small thing, and I wish I could really articulate how huge and how big it impacted me. But simply like, and there's my coach actually, Avi, he facilitates the movement class there, and he just basically teaches about how like movement, dance is freeing. It's an expression of the soul, and and I just danced around like a goofy 6'2" Indian guy, like jumping around, and it felt awkward at first, but like after like
sure.
doing yoga, with the girl that facilitated yoga there named Mashi from LA. And after like just being in that vibe of like the energy, the people there, it just kind of clicked in me. And I wanted to call my at the time ex right then. And I was like, you know what, let me let this soak in for a bit. And the next day, I gave her a call and I was just like, all this stuff was kind of clicking. I was like, you know what? I don't think I'm supposed to be doing the business I'm doing 100% anymore. I don't even think I've
Hmm.
told you this yet.
Mm-mm.
But yeah, so I'm moving.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'm pretty much moving all the way hands off, with hair made in India. Um, you know, I,
Really?
I'm doing classes and stuff, but as far as like the day-to-day operations, being in that showroom, answering
Mhm.
calls all day, yeah, I'm backing up and I'm investing money and time into going down the path that I'm on now, and which I've been on, I think, for quite a while now. I just didn't
Mhm.
really hug it and realize it and accept it and ingrain it inside of me. But I'm
Mhm.
moving towards like wellness and events and coaching and
Mm.
healing and helping. And I have no idea how I'm going to do it, what it's gonna look like, but I've made the decision. And yeah, it's scary. Like right now, the last
Sure.
week, I've been like working on with my coach, like to not do as much, to just back up. And this is the reason
Mhm.
why I'm here in the mountains right now, just kind of like slowing myself down. And it's a struggle. Like I wake up and I'm like, oh shit, where's my pen? Where's my laptop? Where's my phone? Like I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to do this. I need to do that. And I'm just like,
Mhm.
bro,
Mhm.
chill,
Mm.
just chill. And yeah, that's where I'm at. So the next day I called her and we talked for like an hour and a half and I told her like, what I'm thinking and what I'm wanting to do now and what I understood like about, we got in a fight like a couple months ago about her like dancing on Instagram and like and like she tried to explain to me then like, it was just like an expression, like, she wasn't like out there twerking and like on OnlyFans or something. She was just dancing
Sure.
and letting her soul speak. And for
Mhm.
me, like especially like Indian and from Alabama, raised in the South and this and that, like I'm like, okay, women should be like this and be nice. And if they dance like this, it's tied to sexuality. And for me,
Mm.
dance is only with alcohol. And then I go dance and go crazy.
Mm.
And I was kind of like talking about how all this kind of just shifted. And I just see it differently now.
Mhm.
And people are very scared to see. I don't know if scared is the right word. People are very against sudden change, and especially the people you love and
Mhm.
care about and ones around you. They're going to push back against you quite a bit. And I
Sure.
know that. I know that I'm open to that now and understand that. So I didn't really just send it out to the world immediately. I was really trying to internalize it and understand like where this shift came from within me. And we
Mm.
talked like an hour and a half, and she lives with her parents like 4 hours away from LA, and just drove straight down. We hadn't talked in a couple of weeks and been separated, and we spent the evening just talking and chatting. And the next day, I actually came about 45 minutes away from where I am right now with my coach for like a
Mm.
nature retreat. No phones, no electronics. We cooked outside. We camped. He took me through a couple of like rituals, and one of them, which was another huge shift for me, and a big one, like a big one, man. Like was forgiveness and forgiveness of
Mm.
myself and
Mm.
forgive myself for all the things that I did in the
Mm.
past, and I realized when we're talking about that, how hard it was for me to say some of it and actually say, Rocky, like, I forgive you for this. It was
Mm.
15 years ago. It's time to forgive yourself really and just understand that you're not making those decisions anymore. You're not making those choices anymore. Like you need to let go of it. And I did. And we did like a fire ritual ceremony where like I wrote it all down. We spoke
Mm.
about each and every single one of them, and I had a long list of things. And we spoke about them and we threw them in the fire. And the next morning, we were like doing a movement thing where he wanted me like, howl like a wolf. And actually, this was beforehand, like howl like a wolf. And
Mhm.
I was like, starting to howl, and like all of a sudden, this like deep, crazy warrior scream came out of me. Just
Mm.
like I couldn't even do it here. Like, I could do it here, but you would hurt your ears probably. Like it was just loud and crazy. Like,
I'm
and
gonna imagine it right now, though. I got you.
it was loud. And I didn't realize it when I opened my eyes after I was screaming out. Like I had tears in my eyes, and he was just quiet, and he was just looking
Mm.
at me. And he was like, "We're in the mountains, and we're camping out." And he was like, "Rocky, like, what did that bring up for you?" And I was like, "I'm still mad at myself.
Mm.
You know, I'm still really pissed at myself, like for everything, and he like sent me like around like for a hike alone to just go like meditate on it and think about it and come
Mm.
up with that list that I came up with without
Mhm.
a pen and paper at first. Just said just think about it, and then when you come back, we'll talk about writing it down. And I did these couple things with him, as well as like morning rituals with like the 5 Tibetan rituals in the morning, and then we did ice bath and ice plunge and things like that. A couple small things, and I had the intention to like internalize and center myself in what I just learned. But what's so wild is like, this was already, I already planned on doing with this with him. Like, it's almost
Mm,
like the universe knew exactly what I was about to face, what exactly I was about to shift into, and it just laid it all out in front of me. And man, it was just beautiful. I
mm.
came back, and yeah, I'm on that path now. I just like, once again, like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm writing, I'm reading, I'm putting, and I'm just going forward with this new mindset and this new path, and it feels good. And that's one thing that me and my girl, like, now we're back together, we talk about a lot, is like doing what feels good and what's in front of us.
Mhm.
I'm blessed to have, and I've worked my ass off too the last 8 years to get to a point like where I have the total freedom and ability to do that. I don't
Mhm.
think that anyone needs to be in a position like I'm in and to have worked that long in order to start this. For me,
Mhm.
that was my journey, my progression. Like, I went from dealing dope, stealing money, and living a lifestyle where, there was no stability, there is no hard work, there's nothing except wild craziness. So I needed that
Sure.
time in the middle of, like, I can do this, I can hustle, I can focus, I can work hard, I can do it legit.
Mhm.
But that's also not going to make me happy.
Mhm.
It'll show me that it can be done. It'll give me some kind of a structure and savviness when it comes to business and, creating, businesses and products and services. But it's not going to make me happy. And it hasn't. That I realize now, like, with the X amount of dollars and, X amount of business that I have, that those things truly, 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 no matter how much we need them, don't really bring you any kind of fulfillment.
Mhm.
Um, but the last week or so, I've done 2 classes now in person, and they've been centered around hair, but they've also been centered around helping people. And in both of
Mhm.
those classes at the end, and even in the middle and the beginning, we ended up talking more about the internal work and following intuition and following our hearts in our businesses versus
Mhm.
just the numbers, the inventory, the sourcing, the vendors, the supply chain. And I was just like, wow, this. And I left both times.
Mhm.
Everyone, there's like 7 or 8 girls in the group. They all left like pumped, like happy, like excited, like talking to me. My girlfriend was there, so, and she's an intuitive life coach. And they're like, oh, I need her business card. Like, we're ready
Mhm.
to do this. And me, I was like on another, like, I've experienced those highs and excitements like a few times in my life. Like, and to be honest, a couple of times when I was getting out of jail or prison and stuff like that. But to feel it, from something that I just put value into and that I
Mhm.
also received, a payment for, and it also made my
Mhm.
heart fill up, and then also help someone else and help the world. It's
Mhm.
kind of like, I forget what they call it, the Japanese philosophy. I always forget it. It's not Iching. It's there's another Japanese philosophy. It's like, if the 4 pillars of what actually, like, humans are here to do and what our souls want to do, and they tie around like serving value, providing value to the world, and being compensated for that, and being happy within it. And I just found that I'm like, wow, teaching and helping people grow and sharing the experience I had,
Mhm.
is by far more fulfilling and makes me more happy and puts a smile on my face and in my heart than making any kind of deal go through and setting up any kind of random business system to make things work. And
Mhm.
yeah, man. So that this all happened in the course of like 3 or 4 weeks. So I'm still kind of
It's
like, oh,
wild, huh?
yeah.
So are you like so with your business, you're not you're still gonna run the business, right? Like, you're just delegating away a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, so this month I'm focused on, I'm hiring a VA for different, purposes. I'm hiring a call center. I'm rebuilding my IVR for Twilio, which allows, me to get away from the phones, like a phone call service system and a text message system.
Great.
And I'm not going to be in the office and just and doing meetings every day. So the girl that works for me, Aquarius, I
Mhm.
don't know if I told you this. Also, I let her move into the place I have in Beverly Hills and let her pay
Mhm.
me like half the rent, and I moved into like a hostel temporarily. And
Mhm.
since we've been back together, we've been just kind of like Airbnbs, hotels and out of LA, and just
Mhm.
focusing a lot more on like reading and writing and having these conversations, which we've had since the beginning.
Mhm.
Part of me, like, when I'm like, it's crazy as humans, like, we want these certain things, and then we get them, and we're like, nah, that,
Mhm.
that can't be real. It's not. Something's off here. But let me
Mhm.
revert back to the way I used to think about it. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, and that's what we're doing now. So to answer your question, like, I'm not selling, not right now, and I'm not just letting it go totally, but
Mhm.
I'm taking like 3 steps away from the way I used to operate and do things. And
Mhm.
I know, like, I've talked to her about, like, I know I can't just say bye completely, totally.
Sure.
That's my baby. I grew it a lot. And now I
Sure.
have other people I'm responsible to that, I help their businesses and my business helps theirs. So that
Hmm.
would be kind of selfish of me to just totally
Sure.
say goodbye to it. But
Hmm.
I'm making it to where me as a person, I'm not as involved in it anymore. I'm kind of delegating, like you said, to
Hmm.
her, to like the rest of the team, the digital team, the VAs, the developer, and things like that.
Good for you. I think it's powerful too, man, in like several different ways, right? Like, first of all, creating space for yourself to grow as a human, right? Like, if these 12, 14-hour days no longer serve my peace, my health, and my happiness, I have to do something, right? Like, you can't just continue. But maybe, like you said, for that chapter, those 8 years of just grinding and the hustle of building it was what you needed at the time, right? But now your needs have shifted and changed. And so you have to pivot, right? Like
Exactly.
there's something empowering, and I've been reading. It's funny how how sometimes you just get repetitive messaging from all over and you're like, there's something to this, right? And one of the things that keeps showing up is delegation. That's interesting. Is the power of empowering other people by trusting them and being like, hey, as the owner or the entrepreneur or the business or whatever you are, the leader in whatever organization, like it's your baby, like you said, right? Like, I want to do all the work. I want to, I'm going to be grinding the most, right? No one outworks me, that type of mentality. But like at some point, it's super empowering to be like, I trust you guys. Like, I'm going to back off a little bit and let you guys run with it, right? Like, I put in the 8 years of hustle to build it, but let me hand off a portion to you guys. Like, feel empowered, feel free. Like, what do you think about that? Like, is that in your mind at all, of like partially me moving on also might help these people develop themselves in their careers and in the business?
Of course, and man, you hit the nail on the head. Just like you were saying about how we keep having these signs come in, I've had an
Mm-hmm.
overload of, and the word you
Mm-hmm.
just said that's key for me is trust.
Mm-hmm.
Trust has been, man, like honestly, my lack of trusting myself, of anybody around me, of anything, has caused me more anxiety, heartbreak, pain, and suffering almost than anything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and even in my business, like it's hard for me to trust anything, to let it go, and that's what I'm working on now. Like it's something I'm conscious about. And I think that we don't even, a lot of us aren't even aware of these like things we have within us, like the ways we think in our old systems, because like we don't slow down enough to do so. But the last year
Mm-hmm.
I have slowed down, and I'm like, okay, trust is huge for you, Rob. Like I don't even trust in myself to do the right things and to make the right decisions. And then in my relationships, like even like when it comes to the dance and sexuality thing, when it comes to my partner, my family, and I even have these wild thoughts of like, this person might be doing this for this reason, and that comes from directly from for me, my childhood, at those
Mm-hmm.
ages from like 11 to 17, when it actually did benefit me not to trust what was going on around me. Because I was surviving, I was making sure that I was going to be okay, and not trusting the
Mm-hmm.
places I went to and the people that were around me at those times, did save me, but that's no longer here. I'm an adult
Mm-hmm.
now. It was 20 plus years ago. Things are different, and I'm still carrying those old mindsets and those old ways of thinking and
Mm-hmm.
beliefs. And to break those, they say like introspection is not for the lighthearted, and they're right. Like
Yeah.
this last month, like the amount of like just tears and just like like I like I can't be hard on myself, because like we do the best what we have, when we have it.
Sure.
Um, but it's been tough, just to look at myself and be like, like you've done a lot, I've changed a lot. For me, 10 years ago to now is almost a whole new person. But in here, I'm still holding on to so much in the past, and I believe that that'll eventually come and catch up with me crazy, tenfold. So I know that that's what I have to work on,
Mm-hmm.
and I really hope to be able to share that, like
Mm-hmm.
especially with people like me, like us, like with our backgrounds, especially like trauma, pain, prison, violence, drugs. Those mindsets are so hard to shift out of. Like at the end of the day, it can happen in a second, but there's so many steps of like becoming aware, of being mindful, of slowing down, of like stopping the distractions and things that you need to like to do for yourself. And it's all for yourself. And it's all internal. Before like you really start to get consciously aware. And like you're saying about the signs, like I read like so many books like in the past like year, and I feel like every single one of them came to me at the exact right time and at the exact right place. And The
Mm-hmm.
Alchemist, Paulo Coelho, it talks a lot about omens and like signs from the universe, the universal language of the world. And when you really slow down enough to listen to that, they're everywhere, like everywhere. And you just got to pay
Mm-hmm.
attention, and that's like you're hearing about delegation. I'm hearing about trust. I'm seeing things about Rocky. Like I need to be helping out with suicide prevention, with relapse treatment and addiction, with all these certain things. And I'm just seeing it, like it just pops up. Like I was with my coach in the park and the Uber didn't show up on time because LA is crazy with Ubers right now. I was walking around
Sure.
and I just looked at the sign on the poster and it was like, "We need help. Come help out with the suicide prevention march." And blah blah. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, we just touched on that a minute ago, and now here's a sign like right in front of me. Then I get in the car, the driver, and like Mariah Carey "Heroes" playing, and like that song kind of goes back to like my boot camps in my childhood. Like we had to memorize that song actually and sing it at those boot camps, and it was like this big thing. Like, and it's mainly, like that song she's talking about the hero within herself and stuff like that. So, and they just keep on
Mm-hmm.
coming. And whenever I'm quiet enough to listen to them, um, I do. I've actually started to point now where like I'm following the signs in front of me, and I'm only going to do what really feels right. If it feels forced or off or weird or different, I'm just listening to it and just saying, no, you know what, whatever kind of business it is, whatever it might be, whatever the decision is, it doesn't feel right. So I'm just not going to do
Mm-hmm.
it.
Bro, that it's so interesting to me as I listen to you and as I just watch the world and in my own experience, like it's wild how like in my experience, like as you go through life and you continue to seek to be better, right? Like there's points in our life where we weren't seeking to be better, right? Like we were just living and flailing around and partying, doing whatever, and there was no time spent on like who we are as a person, what is life, what is our purpose here in life, right? Like we're just kind of flailing around. But it's funny, like I'm on at a similar place in my life where like the message of slow down, remove some of these distractions, like don't go 25 miles an hour all the time, like pedal to the metal is not the pace you want to go at. It's not, there's no longevity there, like introspection of like, man, what am I still holding on to that's holding me back? Like, and so all that being said, to like when you start, I kind of feel like this, when you start like seeking like your purpose in life, not just like how do I have a career and like make some money, but like why am I here, like what is my specific purpose in this created world that we're in. You start to like you start finding things, that the answers you're looking for, even if they're not easy ones, right? Even if it's like boom, you never forgave yourself for what you did when you were 15. Boom, you still haven't trusted the people around you that matter, right? Like, but those things are they're not always easy, but they're beneficial to you on that journey of like purpose, right? Like, but when you start looking to become who you're meant to be, you start finding it, right? Like it's so wild to like say that out loud and even be like, sounds mystical, right? Like, but it's not, man. Like everyone that goes down that journey of like, all right, let me heal, let me go inside, and like everyone can tell you, yeah, you start finding the things they're looking for, right? Like it's not mystical,
Yeah.
right?
It's not. The reason it sounds mystical is because like it's so simple, right? There's like
Mm,
we like look for these complicated answers to
mm.
these age old like simplicities, and when the simple answer comes in front of us, it's like me personally, I'm like, nah, that's too easy.
There's no way,
Where's the
right?
work?
Yeah,
There's no way. Like,
there's no way it's that easy.
yeah, it's huge. It's huge. Like exactly. It's some of the simplest things are some of the truest, and we don't listen to them.
Hmm. What are you learning from about like uh because at least for most people, like you said it earlier, most people, let's be honest, most people want to be successful and have money. Like that's the goal of the majority of like the young generation, and I think past generations too, the American dream. And you've achieved it, so you've made money, you've built a successful business. I saw you were talking in one of your master classes about you do 6 figures a month in your business. This is not like a lemonade stand, right? Like this is legitimate venture that you have going on. And most people would just envy the hell out of you. You travel whatever you want, you move how you want, right? Like you have the funds to do that. And I posted this thing the other day I thought was super powerful, and it was from Will Smith, and he was talking about how just kind of like you, he's achieved the monetary mountaintops, and the materialistic things that we all think will make us happy. And what you were saying earlier is wild because it lines up just with what he was saying. He said, the thing that will fulfill you the most in life is being useful to other people. And that's exactly what you're saying you're about to do, is like, I'm shedding this materialistic, not that it's all bad, but like this only drive to build my business. I'm going to help people. And that was literally the point of this little reel that he had on Instagram, was that money is not it. It's being useful and giving to other people when you receive the most back.
Exactly. I
Goosebumps.
just yesterday read The Go-Giver. Have you heard of The Go-Giver?
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Yeah.
And it's talking about the same thing we're talking about. It's like he
Yeah.
has these 5 like universal laws that he puts in there, and he puts in the story form, and it's just like, it's so wild. Like, as I'm going on this progression, like that these things are coming in front of me, like, because it's so true. Like, you can ask a lot of people that have made a shitload of money, and most of them will tell you, like, like, yeah, you need it. Yeah, I'm glad to have the things I have, but it doesn't really do anything for you. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
there's only, you get to a certain point, and if you're chasing that, you're not going to ever have enough. If you're the type just wanted to keep chasing, you're going to do that for the rest of your life. You're going to keep looking for that next thing. I think that
Mm.
in the value that we're giving of service to others, that's like a really really good ideal to have, because like, and now I'm at the point where I'm like, how do I help? Like, what do I actually do? So much of my past has been centered around, and people, my friends, still kind of reach out to me like, yo, Rock, we see you doing good. Let me hold something. Tell me this, tell me that. And I'm like, man, I don't want to help out with just giving people money anymore. Like,
Yeah.
I mean? Like, I really want to give my heart, myself, and my experience, my value. And it's a for me, it's a tough one, because I'm like, I know my story, is powerful and this and that, but to be honest, like, I'm still shocked when other people are shocked. You know what I mean? I'm just
Mm.
like, when I tell a story
Mm.
like to a class, and I'm like, I kind of in myself, I'm like, wait, is this,
Mm.
to me, it sounds so normal,
Mm-hmm.
like, but other people, like, it actually kind of helps them grow and be motivated and inspired. And that's kind of what I'm chasing now. And yeah, I mean, Will Smith is probably a prime example of that. Like, he's definitely achieved like a mountaintop of stuff. And it's so cool to hear people like that. And I've seen him get more public on social media now. And I love the fact
Mm-hmm.
that, like, celebrities and people of these status positions are actually saying this stuff now. Because as you said earlier, the
Mm-hmm.
generation now, especially, that's who they're listening to. That's who they're looking up to,
Mm-hmm.
so to have put this out there in the universe, put this out there in their ears and in their minds. I think that we have some really special things coming up ahead of us in the next years. As a collective human race, we just went through all this, and then so many people are being awakened to, like, the possibilities and the realities of life. That I think that, and I've said this at the beginning of COVID. I was like, you know what, this happened for a really good reason, and I think that the world's going to be like way way stronger together finally, not just like, oh, you're India, you're America, you're England, you're Swiss, whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
together. And I feel that. And I've had a lot of people like, you're crazy, bro. Like, this is that, this is that. I'm like, okay, like, everyone's like,
No,
the whole
bro.
point of what I'm saying is, like, we're all allowed to have our opinions and our thoughts. You know what I mean? Like, it's all part of the collective. But this is what I believe, and this is what I know. You know what I mean? Like, in my heart, that
Mm-hmm.
as a race together, we're heading towards that way as a human
Mm-hmm.
race.
Bro, I totally agree with you. Like, uh, we're so synced up sometimes. It's wild. Like, that's why I value you a lot. It's crazy because I thought the same thing at the beginning of COVID. I was like, and it was wild for the first few weeks, but once we settled in, we're locked down. I was like, this is totally an opportunity. Like, it's again, it's unfortunate, right? There's nothing we can do though. You, I, anybody else in the world, you can't stop the global pandemic. So it's like, then it's just a perspective shift of like, how are you going to view this difficult situation, right? Just like you did with your recent relationship issues. Like, it, bad things. My point being, bad things are coming. They're always coming. Like, just because you overcame this, you're fully aware that like there will be more things down the road that suck and are hard. Like, so, but you're continuing to grow through it, and I think that's part of the reason why I think a lot of people have grown is because struggle like forces you to grow, right? Like, it forces you to learn, pivot. You can't go to the store the same way. Like, those basic things. When bad things happen, I think the good happens in the perspective shifts of like, okay, I heard this guy say this once. This is a guy that he's kind of a mentor to me, not officially because he's a life coach and I don't pay him, so I don't want to say he's my mentor. but he's my boy, Matt. And he helps me. He's happy to help me, and he said something to me recently. He's like, Kyle, one of the most important questions you can ask yourself in life is not why is this happening to me, but why is this happening for me? And even that simple change of words, that life isn't happening to you, because that's such a victim way to see it. It's like, what is happening for me? What am I supposed to learn through this? How has this helped me become better? Even if it sucks and it hurts and I don't want it to happen, it's happening. So what is this? What is for me in this? You know what I'm saying? And that perspective shift is going to stick with me forever. It's wild.
Exactly. And that's huge. And that's people like, those are some of the small things like that go in like
Yeah.
these shifts.
That's
Like
a simple question, right? Like,
super
you
simple. Like
change 2 words.
exactly. And I love that too. I mean, the book I'm reading now, that got put in front of me was this Sahara Rose, um, finding your dharma or something like that. And she says the same thing. Don't ask, why is this happening to me? Ask why is it happening for me? And
Mm-hmm.
that's huge. Like, cause it forces your brain to automatically like, you know what, like nothing happened to me. Like this is for a reason. There's something beautiful to learn from it. Let me focus on that. And once you start doing that, remember what you were saying earlier, like how like, you start finding those things like when you're on this path. I've seen that those things just come to me. Like it's why it gives me chills to think about it. They just come to me. I'm just like I'm just focusing on this, and just all of a sudden, even like the relationship I was in recently, like that came to me. I wasn't looking for that. I was focused on. I was just going through another breakup with my ex-wife and ex-girlfriend. Like that
Mm-hmm.
a year
Yeah.
ago when we first talked, and like this, it just came to me, and like I was like, you know what? I was like, I want to find someone that's spiritually aligned and looking for growth and progress and healing and mental health. And
Mm-hmm.
boom, just out of nowhere popped up to me like, and I was looking for friends, good people in a circle that I could not necessarily like be around all the time, but like have there around LA that I could speak with because I was getting so caught up in just business, business, business. And all
Mm-hmm.
that came to me within a matter of weeks back then. Like, and then once again, I put that old brain on it, like, no, this isn't real, this can't happen, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's too
that's
good
been
to be
another
true.
journey
There's no
since
way.
then.
Mm-hmm. It is, bro. It's wild because like, again, going back to what you said at the beginning, it's all up here, right? Once you clear the cloudiness and like fog out of here and start using your mind, like, because your mind is a tool, right? Like, you can make things happen with your hands and with your body. You could pick things up, like, I don't think we sometimes realize you can make things happen with your mind. Like, this thing isn't just like sitting up there uselessly and it's just you have to sit in it and it just controls you. Like, once you realize, like, you can, not fully, but there are tactics that you can use to control your mind, just like you control your hands and make things happen. You can control your mind and make things happen in life and shift things, right? Like, again, we don't have full control because then we would all just like build perfect lives, but like, you have control over this part of your physical body that might not feel physical, but your brain, you have control over your brain, right? It's your brain, it's in your body, you have control over that.
Exactly, exactly. I think that goes back to like just how we're all connected. Like we're all like, I don't know how the wording is, but it's like we're not just
Kind of
like,
like the
um,
right? And I think I access this and change it.
exactly, exactly. That's that connected. The way we're all connected, like through our souls, and it's wild how powerful that is. Like just your thoughts, that can actually, like you said, create things and make things happen. I've seen it now. Once you start to see it and you've seen it a few times,
Mm-hmm.
then you're like, okay, I get it. And I think Wayne Dyer said, like, once you really become aware of how powerful your thoughts are, you're going to start to get really careful about what you think about and how you think.
That's powerful. I think sometimes, I mean, even I can say in my own experience, a lot of times I'm trying to become more aware of my thoughts, right? And I'll catch myself being like, oh man, that is not a healthy thought. Like, that is not a healthy way to think. Like, all the time. But at least I'm now catching myself. You know what I'm saying? Whereas in the past, I wouldn't even recognize it. I wasn't even aware of what I was thinking about. Like they say, like, think about what you're thinking about. You know, like, there's definitely power in being aware of your thoughts, right? Everyone talks about self-awareness and awareness of life and all that, but like, being so aware that you're aware of how your mind is working, because you're aware of how your body's moving, and like you're aware you're going to work or wherever you're going to a restaurant, you're aware of that, but you're aware of like what's happening right up here. You know what I'm saying? Where life is actually manifesting from. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly, exactly. Just once you start catching yourself in those conscious thoughts too. I do the same thing, man. I still have thoughts all the time where I'm like, oh man, like why are you even thinking like this, right?
Right.
But it's cool to be aware of that though. You know, like because like you said before, like in the past, I didn't think about these things. I was like,
Sure.
oh, some crazy stuff. Cool. Let me smoke a blunt, like whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, when you start to catch yourself and become conscious and aware of it, like that's like then you allow the universe to work its magic. Then you allow these omens and these signs to come into you and these shifts to happen. And I mean, I've learned that about myself. Nine times out of ten, like I was the one getting in my way for
Mm,
so much stuff, you know, like so much stuff. And once I got out of my way, like the things that even I didn't even know I wanted just came to me. You know, like
mm,
it's like even in business, like I didn't really have a goal of like doing six figures. I didn't know that I wanted that. And honestly, 5 years ago with the amount of money what I had, like I was still doing what I wanted to do, kind of, you know.
mhm,
But so much of it was not conscious and not like really being aware of all this that now like it's just like that level times 10. Now like
mm,
I really create, you know, what I want to do. Like even like coming up here is big for me, you know, right? Because it's hard for us to like leave our main areas and our businesses and stuff. But every time I do, like I did with my coach like a couple weeks ago, or even in Hawaii, like it just I get to reconnect, I get to slow down and
mhm.
you know, we've been here for 3 days now, and we've literally just written, read, talked, walked around in nature, watched cartoons, you know, like just random small
Good.
stuff like cooked and then chilled out and without like a hustle and like, oh, bustle and this and that. And that's when like answers start to come to us, you know, like we've just been like, you know, okay, like how, like, what are we going to make this like to like, I want to do an event very soon. We do. And it wants to be like a
Dope.
retreat, like a wellness type of thing. And I'm
Mhm,
just like slowly kind of formulating of like how that's going to look of like what type of people that we want to like first start with to serve the most value to. And I mean, for me, it's like, we've talked about this before is like is a big one for me is like men and addiction and like I really want to help out with that a
mhm,
lot like show people like that are like you know really down a path like they feel like they can't you know bounce back from that they can and
mhm.
then she wants to do like relationships a lot and I'm just like wow like we can definitely align in these two things because they're all it's all interconnected it's all intertwined you know like
Sure.
especially when it comes to like you know things inside yourself like relationships like that we want to call like oh we have to do it all by ourselves like but we don't there's always like human nature is to like have that connection so relationships and they don't teach us this stuff in school they don't even touch on it you know like relationships are really important. And it's not like that it takes like work necessarily, but you have to be like in a centered and aligned place with yourself. And then like, and anything you put out after that, like it'll match with you, it'll vibe with you in your relationships, in your life, in your business, in your friendships, and anything.
Mhm. I love that you said that. Like, um, again, from my experience, my personal opinion, right? Like, you want to be in a place where you're healthy enough to be able to be useful to others, especially in a relationship. You don't want to be the person that takes from that person, like, and obviously give and take is part of a relationship, but you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're unhealthy, you're no longer able to be useful to that person, right? If you're constantly just someone that has to be cared for all the time because you haven't dealt with your internal wounds and issues, so you just are constantly your issues are constantly having to be dealt with, right? And it doesn't create like a fluidity, I guess would be a word, in the relationship where it's, you know, give and take, and you need this today and I need that tomorrow. It's like you're the one constantly in need. And I think there's power in taking time like you're doing, whether it's a year or a week or whatever, for people to kind of just go inside and go, okay, what are the things in me that are not useful to myself, first of all, and then are not useful to others, and then how do I eradicate those things or heal from those things so they don't continue to hold me back from being useful to other people? You know what I'm saying? That sounds like exactly where you're at.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, once again, like it comes back to even like the book I just read, The Go Giver. Like,
Mm,
it's not if anything that's not aligned with like what really truly makes me happy, which I've found. You know, I feel find fulfillment from helping other people. I find
mm,
fulfillment from making an impact in someone else's life. anything I'm doing that's not aligned with that is only bringing me backwards and is only going to
Mm,
cause pain and suffering in the future. And I read something in that same book that said that 50-50, like whatever the 50-50 give take is like, it's a cop
mm,
out. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm,
Like you give 100%, make it about the other person, make it about the other thing, and just know and trust that whatever you need, whatever is right for you will come back. You know, that's not
mm-hmm,
an expectation, it's a trusting and a knowing. And just
mm-hmm.
give, give, give. And I mean, I'm at that point now. I read the entire book and then I read the epilogue, the end of it. And I was like, I'm glad I
Mm.
did. Because at first I was like, should I just like go give all my stuff away again? Like, that's not exactly
Whoa.
right. Because I'm really big now. When I feel something here, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna act. I'm gonna listen. I'm gonna act on 100%. Then I read the end of the book and it was like, like, it doesn't necessarily mean give it all away for free or do it all like that, but that's
Sure.
the mindset that you want to have. Like
Yeah.
the mindset is give, give, give value. Obviously, like if I took away, my business and everything I have, then like I wouldn't be able to give. And one of the biggest parts that people struggle with that in the book it talked about as well is at the same time you give, being open to receiving.
Mm,
Just like our world, like we give oxygen to or we breathe out carbon dioxide out of the trees, breathe out oxygen. Like it's a give and take. If they weren't open to receive, or we weren't open to receive that, there'd be no life. I don't. I mean, there would be no life.
mm-hmm,
Like both
mm-hmm,
parts are really important, and that's a big one for me, because I come from the mentality of like never take a favor or a penny from anybody else except for my
right.
dad. My dad is like the one.
Self-made.
Exactly. Like my only person I ever help with anything, and honestly, the one that helped me get things rolling, like when things were really tough in the business in the beginning, was my father. And now,
Mm-hmm,
like I'm at the point again where like when I go home, I buy the meals, I
mm-hmm,
take care of everything, and like I have to realize like still like when they want to give from their heart, you have to be open to receiving because that's the flow. I mean, you have to let that flow just kind of be natural.
mm-hmm.
That's another thing I'm working on now as well.
Yeah, that's a tough one for a lot of people, huh? Especially like that personality type, which we have similar personalities in some ways. Like, I'm gonna do it. I am self-sufficient, right? I feel bad when people try to help me out. You don't need to help me. I'm good. I got it. Like, it's almost rooted in like past insecurities, at least for me, right?
Same.
Like, yeah, see, same thing, bro. But it's and my dad has told me this, which is interesting. You mentioned your dad, that he's like, son, sometimes I want to give you things, and it makes me feel good if you just let me give you something. So selfishly, just let me give you something because it makes me feel good. And I'm like, huh. Sometimes the receiving isn't even for me. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Sometimes it's to allow someone else to like love me and feel like they helped me because that makes them feel validated and makes them feel affirmed in our relationship. It's
Yep.
wild, the power of receiving.
Exactly. Or fulfilled even like because I mean a lot of stuff I do like
Yeah.
now like I feel so much better helping
Mm,
out. I
mm,
feel fulfilled. So like
mm,
I don't want to. I think that's like the best form of selfishness there is. Maybe is like
mm,
like, it's because like I really do. I feel it right here. Anytime
mm,
someone like on my Instagram like I have a couple guys I speak with, and like they're younger. They've gone through recent rehabs and prisons and money issues, and like they reach out to me every once in a while. I was like, man, like I'm glad you're in my corner, bro. I'm glad I know you. The same way I'm
mm,
grateful for you, Kyle. Like I have the other people as well. It's like a chain of like just
mm.
help, healing, and of growing. And like I'm just excited. I'm excited now for the next morning every day. I'm excited to see like where we'll all be in a year or 2 years from now. Like like because this path, this progress, like I've seen it now. I know this now. There's just so much beauty and there's so much reciprocation in it. So yeah, I'm excited to keep going.
Mhm. Bro, I'm excited. I'm excited. Same. I think it's just cool. It's exciting to like see other people thrive, right? Like people that you align with, people that you care about, people that you have similarities with, or that you're like. It's just cool to see people. My brother recently just has been reading some books about leveling up, and so he constantly says, "Level up, level up, level up." Everything always be leveling up. So I think it's just cool to see like you are leveling up, right? Like, and whether it's in your life or like seeing the people around me, they're leveling up in like to their careers and their. I think the most cool one to see is the internal leveling up of people, of like doing that. That's the hardest work, bro. You said it at the beginning. The hardest work happens in here. Everything else out here, we can all hustle our faces off to make it happen somehow if there's enough grit. But this is where the true grit lies, like in here. So kudos to you, man. Like you're constant inspiration, because since I met you, it's been a constant level up. Like I've watched you just level up, level up, level up. It's super cool to watch, man. It's inspiring. It really is. I like being around people that inspire me, right? Like that's the whole idea of this thing, is like put people around you that inspire you. So in an emotional way, you inspire me, man. It's dope.
Right back at you, brother. Right back at you 100%, man. Like I said, once again, like, I'm grateful that we connected last year and that we keep
Same,
connecting. We're staying in touch, man.
same. Appreciate you, man. Hey, the last thing I want to say, thanks for being vulnerable, dude. Like just from me to you, like being on here, but also just like you're putting it out there, whether it's through Instagram, so like you're just being vulnerable. And that's one of the things that keeps showing up for me recently too, is vulnerability. Like there's power for other people in my vulnerability, right? Like when I am not so prideful that I just keep everything in. And when I share the ups and the downs, like I've had people be like, oh, that helped me. This helped me. And I still suck at it because I'm like, I don't want to share it all. But that's something I just want to say, like your vulnerability, I think is a powerful thing that you've kind of grasped or gotten into, that I think on your journey to help people, vulnerability, I think, is top tier. You help a lot of people just by being vulnerable, and you have been for a long time.
And it's powerful. I mean, and not even just for other people, like for me, like
Mm,
personally, like just putting myself out there, like being like transparent, open, and vulnerable. It's healing, and it also it's
mm-hmm.
part of my journey. Part of my healing journey. There's so much that I've kept inside in the past,
Sure.
in older days, that I'm just like, you know what, no, like I need to put this out there. If I'm gonna share about six figures and traveling to Hawaii and having this and that, then you're gonna see the other side of it too. You're gonna understand that I'm not gonna show you just like, oh, the glam and the glitz and the beauty side.
Mm,
You need to see like all sides of it, because that everyone has all sides, like
sure.
especially the younger generation, they're out there thinking, they're like, oh, like it's all beautiful and amazing,
Mm,
perfect. Like, nope, nope, no, it's not like that. It's
just
all beautiful
wait.
in essence, but it's like there's a balance to all of it though.
100%. Balance is so key. That's the whole journey of life, right? Is finding the balance between everything. Because once you start to learn that there's a balance in almost everything, then that's where I think you find a lot of peace and a lot of joy, right? Is in the balance of life.
Exactly, because then you know that the good times aren't going to last forever, and the tough times aren't going to last forever, and that there's going to be things that come up. And then, like we said before, it's not about viewing it as what happens to you; it's about viewing it as what happens for you. And you start to realize that everything that happens is a miracle, like Albert Einstein's quote. Um, and then it just kind of, you can just smile, and then it's like, you know what, like this might feel crazy. Like I'm in a crazy situation right now that I wish I could be vulnerable about on some other level, but I just literally can't right now yet. I don't want to say legally, but yeah, whatever. Legally can't talk about right
Sure.
now.
Mhm.
But I'm just like, you know what? There's a reason behind it. It's crazy. It's like I can't believe it, but there's definitely a lesson, a reason, and I think in this one in particular, there's going to be some real power. And hopefully, next year or maybe in 6 months down the road, if we chat about it, I can share that with you and everybody else as well.
Bro, thanks for your time, man. Like you're just a living example of when you shift your perspective and work on your internal issues, change your mindset, like life is limitless, right? Like the potential of happiness is limitless.
Yep.
Keep it up, bro. You're an inspiration. I love it.
Thank you, brother.
Love to you, man. We'll talk to you soon, okay?
Definitely, brother.
All right. Peace, man. We'll talk soon.
Definitely, brother.